Joining me now is Andrew Dunckelman. He's the head of education and economic opportunity at Google, and Guillermo Miranda. He is the vice president and global head of corporate social responsibility from IBM. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to see both of you. Welcome to Detroit.
Thank you.
Morning.
We rolled out the snow just for
did
you.
indeed.
Yes,
Yeah, we can see that. Thank you.
Well, a little bit later on this morning in the conference, you're going to be on a panel on philanthropy's role in the present and future of work. So before we actually get into that, I would like both of you to explain to our viewers exactly what you're doing in your roles at Google and at IBM and how you're helping in that way. And let me go ahead and start with you, Andrew.
Yeah, at Google, I lead this initiative, which we call our Work Initiative, which is really focused on how work is changing and how we should be responding to that. So we've made a $50 million commitment to invest in both research about the changing nature of work and then in solutions. You know, my general belief is work is changing for all of us, and we need to better understand how and then adapt to those changes. So we've looked at things like reskilling, like changes in job quality, like changes in the social safety net that might need to be made to adjust to the changing nature of work. And I've launched a number of programs and initiatives as well as Google products to really respond to those changes.
Guillermo, what about at IBM? What are you working on?
So I am the head of social impact initiatives, the president of the IBM Foundation, and basically the core of our portfolio is education and skills. We believe that 100% of the jobs are going to change with AI and digital platforms. So we, as vendors and providers, are creators of the new technology. We have a responsibility to help to bridge the gap, to bridge the divide of the literacy or non-literacy to everybody has an opportunity. And IBM programs are focused basically on the underserved communities. So we have programs for high school, college. We have specific initiatives globally in India. And a year we do like $400 million of investment on education and skills for underserved people.
And it's really those nonprofits that are helping fill in the blanks right now. So you're able to identify which organizations are doing some of the best work and help infuse them and see how you can support them in any way. When you say 100% of the jobs are going to be changing, are we at the place that we need to be in terms of dealing with that prospect? And but where are some of the places you think that we're falling down, that we are not shoring up the gaps, or we're 3 years behind in where 5 years down the road is going to be, Andrew?
Sure. Well, I'll give you a historical example and then tell you two things I'm concerned about. You know, when the world changed in the early part of the 20th century toward a really, and the first stages of a knowledge and industrial economy, we developed mandatory high school across this country. And that was what we needed in order to give people the knowledge that they required to succeed in that economy. So we have to ask, what's the high school of the 21st century? What's the new educational requirement that's going to allow people to compete in an environment with tons of new digital technologies, with increasing requirements for critical thinking and teamwork and so forth? And so we're asking how we can work with traditional institutions, community colleges, universities, nonprofit organizations to respond to those changes. When I look at the future of work, I think there are going to be two things that we're unequipped for. One is we know all jobs are becoming more digital. You just had Mark Muro. He's done a lot of that research showing that there's been a massive increase in the jobs that require a high level of digital skills. Mm-hmm. So we're investing in programs like IBM to help people to get those digital skills. The other set of things, which I think in some sense is even more complicated, is what sometimes called soft skills. And I don't like that term because it's a little bit sounds almost derogatory, but those are really important
skills. Right, are really
skills.
not important skills, but they're the ones that are, I think, the toughest to teach.
That's exactly right. How do you teach them? Those are skills that you learn really early. So we're thinking about how can you help adults to develop critical skills in thinking and teamwork and empathy. That's, to me, one area that we still haven't really cracked as a society.
Guillermo, what are some of the concerns and some of the things that you're working on that we need to fill in the gaps on?
Yeah, look, we are very well aligned here in terms of how this will change. I think that first, we need to get out of the belief that there is only one way to be successful and have a rich career and a very good job. You should not think that the only way to prosperity is through university, to the 4-year traditional degree. I think society is open, and as we created the high school for the industrial society, we have to create this different ramp on successful jobs. And on that, we are investing together and in partnership with local governments, with academia, and with other industrial partners. PTech, which is the IBM model, IBM sponsored model, but it's an open source model, is a partnership between academia, between local government, and an industrial partner. And there are more than 600 industrial partners around the globe in 220 PTech schools, benefiting more than 150,000 students that are already working towards a degree on technical knowledge that not necessarily pass through the four-year university. So more ramp-ons. Soft skills, we call it success skills,
Even better.
are critical because the nature of work is changing. Before you were an accountant and you were described as an accountant or a lawyer. Now you work in squads where you need to be multidimensional. And those skills of empathy, collaboration, user centricity are really central to the success of you in the new marketplace. So we invest in those areas and we help the different institutions. I think reality is moving at different speeds. So there are places that can be much more advanced that we can learn. There are places that need some help. I think that more and more society realizes that we need to do something. So we are working in different speeds in different areas and helping.
So you talk about working with the different areas because the main question is who takes the lead on this? Is it government that's going to push that, or say universal high school, or have those certain benchmarks or goals? Then you have corporations that are coming in and saying, we have to partner with philanthropy. We have to help government, and maybe on the smaller level, on the local level, which might be easier to get things done. But who does take the lead? Is it corporate in this? And I guess the second part of my question would be, are we seeing philanthropy take on a larger role in society that we ever have before, Andrew?
Well, I think it's unhelpful to pick one leader because I do believe it requires action from all sectors.
Right.
Certainly, I'm going to speak about the corporate perspective because that's where I come from, and I think more corporations need to be stepping up. What I hear when I go out, I work with a lot of nonprofits and educational providers, and what they tell me is, gosh, we need to hear more from you about how we respond to the changing nature of work. And so we have partnered through an initiative called our IT Support Certificate with over 100 community colleges to help them adapt their introductory training in IT support or help desk roles for how that role is changing. You don't need to know necessarily how to operate a printer anymore in those roles. You need to understand cloud computing. You need to understand automation. And so we're seeing even changes within very specific digital fields.
Do you find that the colleges are keeping up?
They're having a hard time, and there are a lot of reasons for that. I mean, the pace, I think the dynamism is a key factor here, right? The clock speed is picking up. That's one thing we hear all the time. As skills change, they're changing quicker. Now, there are a certain set of things around accreditation that we could get into and how academia is sort of set up to respond to those changes that probably need a different look. I think business needs to do a better job of creating those open lines of communication. And then I'm excited about some technical solutions that are helping to adapt those changing skills on the job into curricula and training. So again, there you see in kind of one concrete example how you really do need leadership from across lots of sectors.
Okay, and so let me ask you about leadership across the sectors, and then we're going to go back to the larger question of, is philanthropy taking on a larger role than we've ever really seen in society before? But in terms of not one leader, but pressure from all sides, and do you feel that you're getting that the help, or you're getting the colleges and the governments to say, yes, we want to continue to work on this with you?
Yes, look, we believe on user centricity, co-creation, and a joint delivery of the initiative. So I see that the actors, not necessarily, as Andrew mentioned, you need a single actor. There are different scenarios where in some cases government can take a lead. In some cases, industry will take a lead. In some cases, the local government or academia can take a lead. We can see how MIT and Harvard are rapidly changing and adapting to accept much more and more of the digital credits. When you get into the full track of university, they accept. So reality is changing. The role of philanthropy is to accelerate some of these, putting additional resources. And I don't call it philanthropy because that comes with a connotation of assistantialism. And I don't want assistantialism. I want the opportunities. So we call it social impact because we ease the way in. And there is a responsibility of the industry, because we as industry, as corporations, need to change some of our behaviors. For instance, hiring practices. IBM is working with several actors to say, hey guys, why your applicant tracking system gives automatically more credit to somebody that has a bachelor degree when you do the rapid analysis of the candidates, instead of opening up for the skills. We need the skills. We don't need diplomas. So I think that industry needs to take a role on how we receive that. And the other thing that is very important to understand is we don't do this as a charity. We do this as a business investment. Google, IBM, we need those skills. Our clients need those skills. So it's a business investment.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel, again, I'll use your phrase, social impact, we've heard that before, and the role of infusing nonprofits to fill some of the gaps? Are we seeing a larger role than ever before?
Well, anecdotally, in the last couple of years, you've had many of the largest foundations in this country step up and say future of work is an area of focus.
Right.
The Ford Foundation rebranded its program to be for future of work. The Gates Foundation has a new economic mobility portfolio focused on that issue. So you're seeing a lot of activity across some of our largest philanthropies on this topic. Where I think philanthropy can have one of the biggest impacts, in addition to promoting innovation and doing catalytic things that perhaps the private sector will not, being sometimes it's called risk capital, I think philanthropy can step in and fill some of those market breakdowns. And so you see data from the World Economic Forum that says that a sizable chunk of people cannot be reskilled under any sort of business assumption. So in other words, there's some set of people for whom there's a positive business ROI to invest in reskilling them. There are other people for whom there's not an obvious ROI. And so I think that is one area where we can see philanthropy stepping up and thinking creatively, not just about paying for that, but also spurring policy change and new financing mechanisms, like income sharing agreements are a hot topic now, that can help really rethink how we finance these sort of skill shifts over the long run.
Do you find that people understand the shift that's going to be coming to the workforce? Are people well educated in what they might be facing in the next 5 years or so?
I think that's part of the challenge, how you are conscious of what is changing around you. And both internally in the organizations, in the companies, and also externally in the marketplace. I think that the driving force of the gig economy, the driving force of the digitalization of the internal process of corporations, and a consumer-driven mentality of what do I need, I think this is starting to turn the point for the people to understand that the future is different. Especially this consumerization input into the society. You see things differently. So yes, but if you don't have the avenues to make something about,
right,
then you do not necessarily have the opportunity. So that's the role of social impact or industry, to take these initiatives to do something different than the inertia. The society inertia is finish high school, try to go to college, get a ton of debt, and then cross your fingers and be successful. That is not working anymore for everybody. So we need to break that cycle. And I think that the people is conscious of that. And I think that we need to create these catalyzers together in partnership. I think this is a point that is important. This is a specific space for partnerships. One alone cannot do it.
Globally, how is the United States stacking up with the rest of the world when it comes to this kind of mind shift?
Well, look, I think you can look at a lot of different things and come to your different conclusions depending on what you're pinpointing. I will say one area where the US actually excels is in early embedding of critical thinking, individual learning, as well as teamwork in our education system. So we often bemoan, are people going to have those knowledge skills of the future? The US education system actually does a pretty good job of this. We're kind of built on that in the early days. I think I would just point to one of the things Guillermo raised, which is we do not have a strong system of alternative on-ramps into jobs like many other countries. So you look, everyone points to the German or the Austrian or the Swiss model, who have strong apprenticeship or similar programs. We don't. We have a few in the skilled trades. There's huge opportunity to increase those kinds of non-college pathways.
Right.
So that's one area that I would point to where we have some room to grow.
Yeah, there's a lot of programs in Detroit and Michigan specifically to try to get people back in the skilled trades, and even kids in high school and trade school, and being able to simultaneously take their high school classes while then going in the afternoon to a trade high school, so they can have that dual pathway. When we look around the country, are there certain parts of the U.S. that are working and doing things here? Because I think specifically about Michigan and the Midwest. How are we doing in adapting, would you say?
Well, I think that if you take a macro view, and we did a very nice study of skills with MIT, the IBM MIT lab did and just published a study of how skills are changing. So you can see that the occupations are changing, and the economy in the US have two polarizations, the East and the West Coast, and then the flyover country that is called. So I think that there are differences, and we need to be conscious of the difference. With this wave of innovation, digital, etc., which the US economy is very good, you start to see very clearly a divide between you are in the East or the West Coast, and there are many opportunities. You're in the middle of the country, and the opportunities are more limited. So we need to do something about that. And it's about joint investment, and it's about these alternative initiatives. At IBM, we launched this year something that is called the Tech City Challenge. So we will launch something in Detroit where we put together academia, local authorities, and industry, and say how we can create these startups, incubators for new ramps on into prosperity for students and for society in general.
All right, Andrew, I'm going to let you get the last word and give workers a sense of what we should be doing or asking about in the next 2 to 3 years in getting ourselves ready for what we might be seeing, maybe not even in our jobs right now, but down the line. What should we be looking for?
I'll say two things. One is there's consistent data from groups like Pew that show Americans say about 80% of people will say we think jobs are changing, but only about 19% say their own jobs are changing. So I think, first of all, we all need to embrace that our own jobs, mine included, will be changing. But second, I think we need to embrace that with a spirit of excitement a little bit. I think sometimes we look at it with fear, and in practice, for many of us, those changes happen every single day. I've learned on the job new technologies that I've had to master. There are a billion people on YouTube every day who are learning new learning content. And so I think we need to be excited about the opportunity to learn new skills and really embrace the future of work.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. We look forward to your panel a little later on this